Welcome back, Soulful Society, to Soulful of Wellness,
the multi-generational podcast brought to you by two functional imperfectionists
and certified coaches
who deliver tips to live your most authentic and balanced life. Today, we're talking about those things we do under the guise of being healthy that are actually getting in the way of our own success. These are the little habits that we say, we'll thank ourselves later, or things we started because they really were healthy once upon a time, but are now actually undermining our health or even our ability to be successful in life.
In today's episode, we reveal 4 quote-unquote healthy habits that are actually quite unhealthy, give you examples of each, talk about what they look like, why you might be doing them, and most importantly, tell you how to fix them and what you can do instead to be genuinely happier, healthier, and more successful. Welcome back. Please follow us if you're on Apple Podcasts. That's that plus button in the right-hand corner that'll turn into a check mark so you don't miss a week of wellness goodness. And if you haven't already, we would so appreciate it if you rated and reviewed this podcast so that other fabulous people can find the pod as well.
Feel free to tell a friend all about Soulful of Wellness if you think they might also enjoy our weekly podcasts. All right, Soulful Society, see if you recognize yourself in any of these behaviors as Kaylin and I reveal 4 major ways that, while trying to be healthy, you're actually undermining your own wellness.
We're going to get into 4 examples. So the first one is over-planning or over-preparing.
This is typically a form of either distraction or procrastination that you're doing to avoid doing what you actually need to be doing.
I can so relate to this. I can sense and feel I'm gaining some awareness on how I've gotten into the habit of sort of over planning things, when in reality, you think it's this very healthy habit because you feel sort of, in check. You feel like you're really adulting. You're like, well, I'm planning, so this must be good.
Right. I'm learning all I can before I get started.
Yeah.
I'm really setting myself up to be successful here because I'm going to know the ins and the outs and the backstory.
Mm-hmm.
By the time I actually get started, it's going to be like, phew, success all the way.
Like you notice that most of your time in your day, and I'm speaking from experience here, like I started to notice a lot of my day, any sort of free time or taking breaks from work was consisting of planning. Is it planning an outfit? Is it planning an event? Is it planning details of the wedding that really aren't urgent, but I just want to be doing something? And here's my hunch on this, Kit. I think it's because for those of us with generalized anxiety, it's sort of this little tool we use for control.
I do it because I so deeply fear failure that it starts with good intention. It starts because I really do want to get ready and do all I can to not waste anyone else's time. I feel like, oh, but on my own time, I'm going to prep, I'm going to study, I'm going to research. But the problem is that I'm doing all this activity, yet nothing's actually getting accomplished.
Right. Yeah.
I haven't taken one single step toward the actual doing. You can prep and prep and prep,
right,
and make very little progress in your real learning because you haven't tried the thing yet.
You know what's another interesting example of this? Over shopping. I am completely guilty of this. And I didn't realize until we talked to therapist Susan McCormick on mental health about numbing strategies and this idea of escapism. So over shopping is a comfort zone and makes me feel good in the moment. However, not when the credit card bill comes. And so being aware of these habits where we sort of overdo things and we think, oh, well, I'm shopping because I want to be prepared for the events that are coming, when in reality, the shopping is just another form of escapism.
Right. And you're telling yourself, oh, I'm going to thank myself later because I'll have the things. I've already ordered them. I'm not coming down to this deadline
Right.
of, oh, I
Yes.
need to order it by this time to get it by this time. So I'm going
Yes.
to thank myself later
Later.
because I'll be getting ready and I'll think, oh, I already have all the things. I don't need to scramble for anything. I don't need to get anything. I've got it all here. But in reality, no, you don't need to spend that much time researching and reading all the product reviews to pick the perfect XYZ. You can also alternatively go to your own closet and pick something out. And boom, there you have an outfit too.
Right. Right. And so what's interesting is this notion of this hidden healthy habit of over planning or over preparing for something, for an event or to go somewhere or whatever it is really you're just stalling and putting off doing what really needs to be done.
You are. And the things that need to get done that you really didn't want to do, hence your avoidance techniques,
Mm-hmm.
they still need to get done. And now you're under a time crunch. Now you've got the pressure of,
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh, and I only left myself this much time. And really, honestly, I know that's not enough time. And now I'm just rushing.
Right.
So you're going to have a sloppy product in the end anyway.
And lastly, I'll say, I would find myself continually planning trips, not exactly executing on it, but really not wanting to live day to day life or being in reality, just looking for the next thing, that next hit of dopamine, like where can I travel to next? And that is just a quintessential form of escapism.
Second up on our hit list,
Overscheduling.
overscheduling is what you do when you subconsciously need to make your life too busy to have the time to sit with yourself and any bad feelings that might crop up in those quiet, reflective moments.
You're having a hard time maybe setting those boundaries, saying no. And in reality, it's probably another form of avoidance of sitting with yourself, which can be really hard to sit alone, to get introspective, to turn inward. It's not always fun. That's why they call it doing the work.
If you notice that the only time you have a free chunk in your schedule is when something gets canceled at the last moment, that's a surefire sign. Also, if you look at your calendar for the next month and you have at least one scheduled activity on every single day, you don't have a single day in the upcoming month is still free. That's another sign you might be doing this.
Language to watch out for in terms of your self talk is, well, I'm an extrovert and I want to be social and all these things because of the pandemic.
I haven't gotten to see these people in so long. This makes me happy. This brings me life. I love being busy. I'm more productive when I'm busy. I'm not saying any of those things are untrue. This is where these little hidden habits get away with murder because they convince you they're healthy. You want them to be healthy. You want to believe them. So you're willing to say, oh, no, 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 this is a good thing. Yet your body's clearly sending signals that even extroverted you might be maxed out because you're thinking, oh my Lord, if I don't get 2 seconds of peace to myself, I'm going to lose it.
Yeah.
Well, you're the one in charge of your own schedule ultimately.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do something about that.
And when we're alone is the time that we can really turn inward. We can really identify the things in our life that are working, that aren't working. And so being very mindful of overscheduling, it is another form of escapism, of escaping of that uncomfortable time of sitting alone.
Your brain needs time to process. The constant influx, the barrage of information and sounds and voices and data coming into your brain, our brains weren't designed for the demands of this constant input, this saturation of info. So what happens is you start thinking like, why am I so forgetful? Why can't I remember the details? And your anxiety just amps up. And this is because your brain simply can't handle this level. It needs the time to sit still and let the information find the correct compartment to store itself so that it's easily retrievable when you need it. And when you let all that buzzing information settle and the parts that you don't need to hold on to, you can release them. They don't need to buzz around and they're taking up space. You're making space for future information to come in.
Oh, that resonated so deeply, Kit. Part of the reason why I was so inspired and so excited for this episode is how hard it hits home. Recently, I found myself just constantly distracting myself and overscheduling my brain.
Mm-hmm.
If I take a work break, what am I doing? I'm scrolling on social media in an endless pit. I'm like addicted, unable to unglue my eyes from these feeds. And if I'm not doing that, I'm texting a friend. If I'm not texting a friend, I'm on the phone with someone.
Yeah.
That resonated really hard. And it was really good to hear, the science behind this stuff, because I need help, girl.
Well, I'll share with listeners what I recently put myself through. I won't even say went through because that's too passive. Like I put myself through this. If I just have down quiet time, I got to the point where I thought of that as lost learning time. So any quiet time I had, I was listening to a podcast or a recorded book, and I'd walk around multitasking, thinking, look at me accomplishing so much. I'm doing laundry, but I'm also listening to this self-help book. And I was worried about my brain because my mother has very advanced dementia. She's actually in hospice for dementia. She is, I should throw out there that she's 92. So talk about a tired brain that deserves to be a little tired. But I was worried because I saw some behaviors in myself that I remember from her in the very early stages. And I was concerned. And I went to a memory specialist brain doctor over the summer. And we had me go through a whole battery of tests with MRI scans and the ERGs and memory tests. And the conclusion at the end of it all was that my brain is a perfectly normal 52-year-old brain that is incredibly overtaxed and probably not rested enough, because they can't definitively tell me that. I know that about myself, but that this was the medical conclusion of all of it. And that was a huge wake up for me. I don't know how much money I cost my insurance carrier with all these tests, but I'm sure it wasn't cheap. And it was a lot of worry and effort on my part to go through it all to find out that I need to just chill from time to time. So if I can impart that to you, dear listeners, that you could benefit from chilling, trust me, it'll save you a lot of medical tests, hopefully, in the future.
Oh.
Number 3.
Too much treat yourself. So these are external motivators. So we're sort of overindulging. And the healthy part of it is balance, or I'm treating myself.
Yeah, here at Soulful of Wellness, we're all for treating yourself. We totally support cheering for yourself, rewarding yourself, celebrating the wins. That's great. But what we're talking about here is when you notice patterns in your life and you look at your behaviors and you realize, wow, this area, this thing, I seem to not be able to do at this point without either some kind of bribe to myself or reward after the fact because I did it again. I earned this. I deserve this. If you are relying on those external motivators, that is not what drives long-term sustained change. That comes from within.
I think that for this one, it can really show up in the body. And the reason why I say this is because overindulging can look like many different things. I used to overindulge in fast food and takeout in college, as well as alcohol and processed foods. And I was in so much pain. My body was screaming at me. It was a really difficult time. I ended up developing an autoimmune disease and went 5 years seeing 9 different specialists without a diagnosis. And so, suffering for that long physically and just merely pushing through, or, well, I love Chinese food. I can kind of tell this hurts my stomach, but I had a really tough exam, or, I'm really stressed. So, whatever, treat yourself. I was destroying my insides and paying the price for it physically. And this can also look the same way with alcohol. You don't have to necessarily have an alcohol problem to be overindulging in alcohol, right? You start to notice the symptoms and signs.
That was so well said.
Oh, thank you.
That was perfect. You don't necessarily have to have the problem with alcohol to have a problem with the choices you're making around the alcohol.
You feel it in your body. You feel it in your demeanor, in your overall well-being, in your spirit, right? When you're hungover, even just a little bit, if you notice your energy is off both spiritually and physically, right? And your organs are also trying to play catch up. These are just things to keep an eye out. And that's why I say I think that this overindulgence can really, a sign that it's going too far is tune in with your body.
Right. So if you, at the end of every day, are having a glass of wine and saying, I need this to help me unwind from XYZ, take a closer look at XYZ. That might be what really needs the change.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And then the choosing the glass of wine is going to resolve itself in some way that works for you.
Yes.
Once you get to the heart of the real issue.
Exactly. Trading in those little dopamine hits for, sustainable change. And
Number 4.
Taking a healthy habit too far.
This is the if some is good, more must be better, right? Philosophy.
The intention behind these habits are good, and it's something that starts out as genuinely healthy, but takes over so it's controlling you, not you controlling it.
What this might look like is you start learning more about food and healthy eating and nutrition, and you start making better choices for yourself. And then you're making better choices throughout the day. And then you start restricting other food, and you get the idea. You get carried away until this whole healthy eating nutrition becomes an obsession, and they have a word for it, orthorexia. And it's a problem. Started as a good thing. You mean for it to be a good thing. It's not a good thing. Take your workout. You start mixing up your workouts. You start adding in some new workouts. The next thing you know, physical activity and its presence in your daily life is the difference between a good day and not a good day. And you get into over-exercising, that no days off mentality.
Mm-hmm.
You're setting yourself up for injuries. You're working through injuries because a day that you don't work out is a doomed day. It's a lost day, a waste of a day, and your mindset changes to this completely obsessive, unhealthy one around something that started off really healthy and supportive of your wellness journey.
Mm-hmm. We can always take things too far, right? And there is a sliding scale when it comes to these things. I hate to be cheesy, but it really is about balance, and it really is about awareness and starting to notice your moods and how you're feeling and how you're doing. Are you starting to obsess over food? Are you starting to obsess over working out? And just like you said, Kit, is it a doomed day if you mess up, quote unquote, or step outside of those lines that you've drawn for yourself?
If you can't not do something, it's controlling you. If you can't not work out today, and your friends are all doing something really, really fun and you want to do it, but you can't because you've got to get to the gym or you've got to get your workout in, that's a problem. So what it boils down to is who's in control? All 4 of these categories. When the habit is truly healthy, you are always the one in control.
You're making the decisions.
Exactly. You're choosing where and when and how much. When the habit takes over and starts controlling you, your decisions, your life, your schedule, that's a clear sign that you've crossed into dangerous or unhealthy territory.
just be aware that these seemingly healthy habits, they're painted and portrayed all pretty and all healthy, but they can be taken too far. They can be used as a way to numb, escape, and avoid. I know this firsthand, and I'm actually personally working on my scrolling and social media usage because I've noticed that is and my planning. Honestly, they all relate, right? But like those are the ones that I'm working on right now.
Our 4 categories came from our personal lives and experiences. So yes, they
We're right there
absolutely
with
all
you.
relate. Thankfully, not all at the same time. You mentioned the social media scrolling and talk about patterns. Every Soulful of Wellness episode where we talk about breaking unhealthy habits or being conscious of and aware of habits you have in your daily life that are getting in the way of your wellness, every single one we have to talk about social media consumption.
We always come back
Always.
to it. And I
Always.
still have such a hard time with this one. This is a hard habit to break.
It tells
It
you
is
it's fun. It
addictive.
tells you it's social. It tells you all kinds of things that you want to believe. So you're on board.
It's so easy, right? It's at the palm of your hand.
You've gotta watch for the impact it's having on you, on your mood, on your self-esteem, on your wellness. And say no when you need to. Set limits when you have to. What to do? 1, notice. Be self-aware and be realistic. The tendency is to believe the messages of, but it's this, but it's doing this for me, but it's this.
It's so good for me.
I know other people who, well, good for them. We're talking about you.
That's not you.
No one's perfect. We do the best we can, but we learn and grow from our mistakes. Don't repeat your mistakes.
Number 2, get to the root cause.
A coach or a therapist can be extremely helpful with this, but you are capable, if you're willing to be self-aware and realistic, you can get to the root cause. Once you notice all these things are around XYZ, dive into XYZ.
Mm-hmm. I can't do a day without X.
What if? What would happen if? What if you did a day without X? Would the world fall apart? Would you wake up fat the next day? Go there. Worst case scenario. Step 3.
Start a meditation practice. So this physically rewires your brain. It helps you handle stress.
It teaches your brain to tell your emotional system to pause and process.
Helps the nervous system relax. Which brings us to number 4, a mindfulness practice. It could be as simple as just trying your best to be present when you're doing the dishwasher. I mean, I think listening to music while doing the dishes is the same thing. So being mindful looks like just trying your best to be present in each moment. So maybe try once a day. So taking a walk without your phone, maybe. Give your brain a break from the screen and from the habit and the addiction. Like knowing me, I'd pull out my phone, who knows, 18 times during a walk. I don't know. If my phone's not with me, I don't have the option. So you can really soak in the benefits of being outside, which brings me to spending time in nature. That's another great mindfulness practice. Get you out of your head, get you out of those habits and into the moment.
And finally, schedule alone time. That packed schedule some of you have. Schedule downtime, not a reserved spot so you can put last minute stuff in later, and not catch up time. Not, from 4 to 5, I'm not going to schedule anything so I can catch up with the things I ran over with or put off earlier in the day. No, it's not that. It's scheduled alone time to sit and reflect, to be with your own thoughts, to allow your thoughts and your ideas to find that proper compartment for later retrieval on demand, to lower your anxiety, to calm everything down, to slow it all down, and create space in your brain for new information in the future to deal with all the different things that come up in life.
We hope you learned a thing or two on how healthy habits can be easily turned into unhealthy habits, how to notice it, and what to do about it.
If you have any tips that you've learned from experience and would like to share with us and other listeners, we would love to hear them. We have a couple options for you. You can always email us at sfowpodcast@gmail.com, or you can DM us on Instagram, Soulful of Wellness with an underscore between each word, or we're experimenting with those voice memos. I don't know what they're even called on Instagram, but you hit that little voice record thing and it's kind of like leaving an old school voice message for somebody.
Till next time, see you next week. Peace, love, and light.
Peace, love, and light.
The Soulful of Wellness hosts are certified health and wellness coaches. This podcast is intended to inform and entertain listeners on their wellness journey. This podcast is meant to enhance, not replace, listeners' care from doctors, therapists, or other medical providers. So full of wellness.